Hello and welcome back to Author Speak with Vishwesh Desai. Author Speak with Vishwesh Desai delves into the minds behind the magic, the person behind the words. Produced by Ahmedabad Book Club and conceptualized by Nikita Shah, this series brings to you your favorite authors and helps you get to know them better. What drives them, what they love, what they read, and how they write. Let me introduce our second author for the Author Speak series. By her own admission, she has bailoed many papas to get where she is today. She's worked in journalism, in banking, and she's managed a gas agency, a news agency, and a handicraft store before taking up a pen to become an author. Her multifaceted personality and vibrant thinking is reflected in the varied themes of her works. I'm delighted to present Ms. Kusum Chopra.
Thank you, Vishwesh.
Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure being here.
Hi Kusumji, it's great to have you here. So I'll just cut right to the chase. What was it that inspired you to write?
Vishwesh, it's been such a long time. I really cannot think of any one point which might have inspired me because it's been a long life.
Right.
But yes, I can say that there was always a burning urge to tell stories. Stories of ordinary people, people who are just, they just live, but they do
Right.
such interesting things that we have so much to learn from them. Those are the stories which I like to
Right.
write and which started me off on this journey.
So to write about the stories that go untold.
Yes.
Right.
It is being recognized now and is part of oral history. But when I started writing, everybody thought it was strange.
Right. That's why you're paving your own path.
Right.
So, Kusumji, for anyone that goes through your bibliography, the first thing that stands out is the sheer diversity of your work. You've written about so many things from myths and obscure history to really heavy and dark subjects like rape, domestic violence, dowry, and even subjects like love. So, with such incredible diversity, with such great range, what, in your opinion, is the common thread that brings your work together, that links your work?
Well, since you've been through so much of my work, I'm sure you must have noticed that one thing which runs through all my writing is my fascination with history.
Right.
You see, the whole idea of the way civilization has evolved from the earliest beginnings and the way the past intermingles in the lives of so many people with their present and signals the future. That
Right.
is something which fascinates me. It is not only a question of the history of an individual, it is the history of India, it's the history of so many countries in the world. And it's just, history is there.
Right.
It has always been a fascination. So I have indulged myself in that. And the second part of your question is I have always been a feminist. It was there since childhood. It came out into the open and in the public at a very much later stage. But it was there even when I was a journalist, and it is there in all my writing. I am not one of those bra-burning feminists. I'm sorry. That does not appeal to me. And I don't believe in, a world where, we are like this.
Yeah.
And it should not even be like this. So I'm not interested in creating male women
Yeah.
or female men.
Yeah.
I want this. So this is my idea of feminism.
And that's very important because,
is so important.
yeah, and especially in today's world where so many people have a distorted view of feminism that feminists are looking to, overpower men and supersede them, when in truth it's the idea of equality.
Vishesh, I have written this somewhere.
Right.
That as we go forward, trying to take our agenda forward, we have to be careful that we don't make ourselves male women.
Right.
Because the males have made such a havoc of our society and civilization. Unless we put it right, what is the use
That's
of our
true.
going forward? If we are going to do the same things, make the same mistakes, do all that,
Then that's not real progress.
it's of no use to either us or anybody else.
Very true.
So we have to be careful over there that we create a gender equality and have genuine emotions back into life. that is the legacy that we have to pass on.
It's a great idea. That's a great sentiment. Kusumji, I've read about what you call the water factor, and I started writing in much the same way myself. I started writing because I would come up with alternate endings and spin-offs to the stories that I'd come across in whatever form it may be. A book, a movie, even a video game. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the water factor and what its importance is to you and your work?
Well, I would consider the water factor a very great impetus actually to my writing. You know what makes my Mastani special?
What is it?
The water factor.
Right.
If you
there are two possible endings.
Yes. It's the only book which has two endings in India. Now, if you go to Pune 10 years ago, everybody would tell you that Mastani heard that Bajirao was no longer and she collapsed and she died. And I would just say Bangam. Because by that time I knew enough about Mastani to know she's not the type who's going to collapse like that. Secondly, they have no proof. In the Peshwa household, now Mastani was living in the household. Today she is an acknowledged second wife of Peshwa.
Right.
Yes. So every woman who was living in the Peshwa household, whatever she spent, even if she gave 2 cowries to a beggar, it would go into the Bakhar, which is the account book which is kept.
Right.
And everybody, when they passed away, the funeral rites, the exact kharcha would be noted, 1,627 rupees, these many annas, these many pies.
Right.
That was how the hisab was kept.
To that exactness.
Yes. There is no hisab of Mastani's last rites.
Right.
So that was a big question. And the thought that came to my mind after I had written the whole book, I was reviewing it, the manuscript. And I said, what if she did not die like that? Because there's no proof that she died. That is how she died.
Right.
So that set me off on the journey of reviewing all the material which I had collected over almost 25 years. And it was when I was reviewing it dispatch. You see, when you are writing from material, you are busy writing the story.
Yeah.
But when you go back to review it a second time, you see new things emerge.
Yeah.
And that is where the second ending emerged.
Right.
I was able to, tackle it all, calculate everything, review all the happenings in the Peshwa household, on the computer go back to the Tithis of 1740, and then that second ending emerged,
Right.
which has made this what if.
Yeah,
So,
very true.
What if is there in so many of my stories. Now I have a very fond hope that somebody will someday take one of my stories, what if it, and make a new story.
That would be incredible.
That's it. What
Yeah.
if is very important. That is how I think.
Is that first spark.
Yes, it's the first spark.
Kusumji, you've said that despite your years as a debater, public speaking leaves you weak-kneed now. And, I think that's part of the strange paradox that there is to being an author. Because authors have to speak at events, they need to engage with their readers, they need to promote their work. And that's despite the fact that so many authors, myself included, are just inherently introverted. So, how do you deal with that? What's your take on it?
Well, more than a paradox, I think it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I started out speaking very well. That was in school and college. I used to win prizes for my debating skills and stuff. And then I went through a very long spell as a silent watcher.
Right.
And it was only after my books started coming out and I started participating in, public functions. Because nowadays, as a writer, you have to go out and promote your work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't get out. So then it became a challenge. And of course, first of all, you have to dig in your own self.
Yeah.
Make up your mind that this is something which I have to do. Work it out, really challenge yourself. And then you come to the stage where you're ready to do it and you go in for intense prep.
Right.
You do your research, you do your writing, repeatedly editing, to make sure that you're saying the right stuff, you're not doing writing extraneous stuff. and initially practicing it in front of the mirror, until you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Because over time, I don't need to stand in front of the mirror, but I still need to do some prep. And then it is a question of just mustering up the courage and say, I'm going to do that. I'm doing it.
Yeah. That's true.
That's the way. So today I'm going to take 2 minutes of your time, and I'm going to tell everybody that my latest book, titled Altitudinous Seekers, Sinners and Secrets, has just hit the market. It is unique because it has been written by 8 women and 2 men from different professions. And those who have read it have told us it is unputdownable, because there is so much in that book, a suspense thriller with amazing human angles. Do go out and read it. Thank you.
Your second book, Mastani, was acclaimed for its depth of research and historical accuracy. How did you go about sifting fact from fiction for Mastani's tale, which is, it's at once both obscure and yet heavily scrutinized and heavily examined?
Well, you see, Vishwesh, when there are no official records, one has to go to what are called secondary sources of history.
Right.
Now, officially, everybody just knew one sentence about Mastani. That is, that the life and times of Peshwa Bajirao I were greatly influenced by a Muslim dancing girl called Mastani. And historians, going back to the Venerable Grant Duff, I call him Grant Duffer, because he just picked up that one sentence which the Brahmin scholars had written, and everybody blindly followed it. When I first got interested in Mastani and I started asking questions, they would say, there's nothing to know about her. I said, but if all of you are writing this sentence in your history books, whether it's Marathi or English, there has to be something to it. I mean, there have been millions of dancing girls, all over history.
Yeah.
And do we see their names anywhere? Even Mumtaz Mahal is just a footnote, because it was the Taj Mahal was made for her.
Right.
Otherwise, nobody would remember her. So why is everybody recalling Mastani? Oh, नहीं कुछ नहीं है, ऐसे ही लोग बोलते हैं. I said, what do you mean ऐसे ही लोग बोलते हैं? It's bunkum. So I started digging. It took me years and years. It's true, officially there is nothing on Mastani. Then I got some, determined digging, got me some clues, and I turned to writers who were not on the official grid.
Right.
People who had presented a different picture and they were shunted out of society.
Right.
But their books were there, their writings were there. Maybe they'd be, shuffled into the back of the library. So you make friends with the librarian, you make friends with the staff, and they'll point you to go there. And I was not conversant in Marathi, so I used to be carrying a Marathi to English Marathi dictionary everywhere, or I dragged some friend who knew Marathi, and that's how I started on the journey.
That's great dedication.
I was fascinated by Mastani, and when I came to know about her and I really got involved with her, I had made up my mind that I am going to restore her respect and honor.
Right.
So that is the reason for the digging. Then I got a clue that there is material on Mastani in her original home, which is Bundelkhand,
Right.
Madhya Pradesh, on the border between Madhya Pradesh and UP. Her father, I'm very proud of this fact actually, that I have established that she was neither Muslim nor dancing girl. She was the daughter of Maharaja Chhatrasar. She was a Kshatrani. She was trained for warfare because her father saw the capacity in her. She was trained in administration, in politics and diplomacy, and as an intelligence officer. So that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And digging, of course, earned me a lot of enemies. But those very historians who used to dismiss her in that one line, in their latest editions, they all carry a chapter on Bajirao Mastani.
Right.
I was extremely lucky, I would say, that I had 3 guardian angels, you could call them.
Right.
Every little bit of information which I got, I would be talking to them, and over long distance phone. One was in Banda, one was in Pune, and one was in Bangalore.
Right.
So every little bit of information which I dug out, I would ring these people, and we would sort of weigh the pros and cons. If we accept this fragment of fact, then what we had planned, thought out here,
Right.
that would be disturbed. Kitna balance karenge?
How much doesn't match the other pieces?
Yes.
Right.
All that had to be done, and of course all three of them would keep insisting, "Ki start writing, start writing, start writing." But I would say, unless I know how she dies, how do I write? And then one of them got very stern with me, and he said that, "Look, if you don't start writing, Dolly, you're getting old. You'll forget facts, you'll forget the flavors."
Right.
When you get a piece of knowledge, you're able to integrate it with other stuff. But as you grow old, the faculties also grow old.
Right.
So he said, "You just start writing, and we are there with you, we'll go along, we'll keep integrating the story, but start writing at least what is already there in your head.
Right.
Don't just make notes." So I consider these three people, the guardian angels, they are my heroes who ensured that all that research became a very well acclaimed published book called
Right.
Mastani. So research is very important, but integrating the knowledge
Right.
and the what if factor,
Right.
that is what got
I
it
see.
through.
Your book, Nirbhaya and Others Who Dared, deals with some of the darkest elements of Indian society. So, while you were writing the book and while you were researching the subject matter for your writing, how did that entire process affect you?
Well, it was heavy, but I'd like to tell you that Nirbhaya actually started life as a series, I think about 7 or 8 stories, which I had titled Sisters.
Right.
They told the stories of sisters, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, whose lives had, sort of crossed and intercrossed, and with not very happy circumstances.
Right.
And how they were able to come to terms with that unhappiness. Then, around the time when the Nirbhaya episode was happening, that was December 2012,
Right.
at a literary meet, I read one of those poems. And one of my young friends, his name was Vishwa, if I remember correctly, he said, "I'd like to read more of your work." So I just gave him that. Earlier we used to take out printouts of our stories and get them
Right.
spiral bound. So I had this little volume of Sisters with all the stories. So I gave it to him. I said, "Read these." And he came back in record time and he says, "Ma'am, you seem to have been writing about Nirbhaya before Nirbhaya happened." Because in every story there was a Nirbhaya. By
Right.
Nirbhaya, I mean a woman who thinks out of the box and wants to change her circumstances. That is
Right.
what Nirbhaya wanted,
Yeah, the spirit of fearlessness.
Yes, the spirit of it. So that lit a spark. And I wrote a slew of stories in which women of all ages, all, different streams of life, different corners of India, and different circumstances. Like I've got 4 stories which are set in the rural areas. I've got a story which is set in the northeast. Like that. They're from all over India, in which I call them my Nirbhayas. There are 25 of them in those stories. I made sure that they facing a problem and they find an out of the box solution, so they come out
Right.
winning. But then in a human situation, it's never a triumph. It is just a little extra plus,
Right.
offsetting some of the loss.
Right. It's mitigation.
Yes, it's a mitigation of earlier circumstances, but it's not all jubilation.
Yes.
Because there has been loss.
Yeah.
So, but it still ends positively. And it was at that time I was going through a deep personal crisis also. So I guess some of that also got reflected,
Right.
in the
As an
book.
outlet.
Yes. So that is how the stories came about.
I see.
And it was it was quite a rough ride. It was a rough ride.
Yeah.
But I think the book did well because, and it sort of established me as a feminist writer.
Right.
So that was my plus point.
Right. Kusumji, you forayed into the romance genre with Silver Dreams. It's a very unique story. It's the first romance story in India, as you put it, with the Silver's couple center stage. So, how did you get the idea and inspiration for it? Well, while writing romance, did you draw upon your own experiences, your friends' experiences, or something else?
Well, experience-wise, I would say I had a wide net. Some my own, some from people whom I knew, and you'll be surprised. My biggest source: train and bus journeys,
Acha.
eavesdropping, because that is where people, tell each other their stories, and there's
Right.
a listener absorbing it all.
So during your silent watcher years.
Yes. So that was a big source. Actually, it's a big source for much of my writing.
Right.
And but I remember the writing of Silver Dreams as one of my happiest memories, honestly,
Right.
because the book practically wrote itself. Every time I would put my head on the pillow, and some new episode, some new piece of dialogue, some new twist, some new trip, it would just come into my head, and I would jot it down. And then when I got up, I would be creating the whole thing with a big smile on my face, humming a song.
Right.
I grew up in a household where there was music all the time. I never studied it classically, but I was full of music, and the songs which I really loved as a kid, I had stored in my memory that one day I'll write stories around these songs. And I poked 22 of them into Silver Dreams.
Wow.
You'll find them there.
Right.
So it was actually a very happy process for me writing it. Of course, it is a complicated story, and there is a lot of novelty because nobody has ever tackled romance for a 60 and a 70-year-old. So I had to make sure that I had to reach out not only to seniors, but also to the in-between ages, the people who are coming up to senior level. It is possible to have a good older age, and in an estranged family it is possible to bring things together. So there is lots of memory banks, there's lots of music, there's lots of humor, there's lots of travel. They travel from the Himalayas to Bombay, to Mumbai, to Thailand, to Canada, to the West Indies.
Right.
And there
In the
is-
60s and 70s.
Yes.
Right.
And there is a brush with voodoo. There's long lost ancestors to be found. And well, there is one piece of dialogue which still draws a chuckle from me,
Right.
That is when Rana, who is my hero, he tells his wife, there's some dialogue, and he says, what a way to go. Suffocated suckling a yum mum. A 60-year-old
Right.
yum mum. So there it is. But seriously, Vishwesh, I think that, with all the emphasis on juniors and young people, the senior section deserves a lot of attention. So
Right.
I myself am a senior, and people my age who have read a lot in our youth, we are sick and tired of all these tomes which are telling us to do this, do this, do that, do that, do that. Science fiction, finished. Horror, finished. We've been through it all. So you just sort of have a change in the setup, but what do we bite into?
Right.
Even these reimagined mythologies, it's interesting up to a stage. And then you find that there's so much repetition.
Right.
So we are looking for something where we are engaging with the present without forgetting our past.
Right.
We want that nostalgia. So this book was meant for that.
Right.
And right now I'm writing a series of short stories with the same focus,
I see.
that we want reading materials which suits our tastes. yes, we want to engage with the younger generation. Younger generation should also engage with us.
Yes, it's very true.
You see, it has to
Yeah.
be a two-way dialogue.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hoping to generate.
that's great. Kusumji, your latest work, Altitudinous Seekers, Sinners and Secrets, is a collaborative novel, right?
Right.
So, what was it like working with different authors who have different styles? And how did you guys manage to craft a coherent storyline together?
Well, it was not very easy. Actually, to tell you the truth, when we started, and after the initial meetings, when we narrowed it down to 10 people who were prepared to commit to the project,
Right,
none of us knew the extent of harrowing tales we would generate and all the ups and downs that were going to happen.
right,
Neither the 3-year time span, nobody was quite prepared for it. We just sort of started off on an adventure on doing something new.
right,
Started off with a chapter which I had written almost 3 years before that. It introduced the 4 key characters in the book. And then there were so many leads coming out of it that I didn't know how to go forward. And then I hit upon this collaborative writing thing.
right,
You know? And I got these 10 people together. But you look at our team. See, here is a journo turned author. We have an environmentalist. We have an IT entrepreneur. We have an architect interior decorator. We've got an oncologist.
Oh, wow.
We've got content writers. We've got teachers. What have you? We've got a scientific researcher.
Oh, that's great.
So, with all this, you can imagine. And there's just this one chapter and no plot outline.
Right,
So, imaginations, we decided that, somebody would write the second chapter, then the third person would take off from where the second one went, and so on and so forth. But imaginations just went wild. And after a time, we had to stop and think, where are we headed? So it took several brainstorming sessions to work out an outline of how we wanted to, shape this book to shape in.
right,
But with all those wild imaginations, what happened was that integrating each contribution into that plot line became very difficult.
right,
So it was quite a task. There was a lot of bad vibes at times, especially when somebody's chapter was deemed impossible to integrate.
right,
So then special efforts had to be made to sort of smoothen over egos.
yeah.
You work on a whole chapter and the rest says, sorry, we can't take it.
Yeah.
It's a big blow.
Yeah,
But, well, I'm very glad to say that in spite of all that, in spite of north, south, east, west, we come from different parts of India, we integrated, and our editing specialist did a marvelous job of putting it all together.
right,
And in spite of all those challenges, we are still friends. So, it has
Yeah.
its pluses. Of course, it must be having its minuses, but so far the reviews we've got are very encouraging. So, we're hoping that more people are going to like it. And I'm looking forward to more collaborations. I think it's good fun.
yeah. That's
Because
great.
it gives you a wider canvas.
Right.
It gives you a very wide canvas.
Gives you a wider canvas and more brushes.
Yes, so much. So, hopefully. It's amazing that a story about an old woman and her dysfunctional family, where it led to? It led to research, murders, international mafia, and even romance.
That's
We're
great.
traveling all the way from Mao to Manali to Mumbai, even China. So it really had a wide ambit. And I think it's thanks to having so many people on board with so many imaginations.
Right. Your professional journey has been a complete roller coaster ride. So, what would you consider your most significant and most cherished moments?
Well, I would say each of my books is a milestone.
Right.
I started out with sending stories into anthologies, and then Beyond Diamond Rings, and Mastani, Nirbhaya, Silver Dreams, and now Altitudes. So they are official milestones. But the milestone which is most precious to my heart is the acceptance of Mastani as the second wife of Peshwa Bajirao I.
Right.
This happened in the August of 2016 at a public function. The current Peshwa stood there with the descendants of Bajirao on, from his first wife Kashibai and from his second wife Mastani around him, and he said it in public that
Right.
Mastani Baisa was Bajirao's wife, and I accept all these as members of my family. And I
Right.
was standing 2 feet away with tears streaming down my eyes because it was the fulfillment of what I had said for myself.
Right.
That I wanted to restore to Mastani the honor and respect which he so richly deserved. So for me, that
I
is
see.
the most important milestone. It is precious to me and it is precious to my soul sister, who is Mastani.
Right. The validation of 25 years of
Oh, by that
hunting.
time it was 30 years odd,
Right.
2016.
Right.
It was 30 odd years.
3 full
I-
decades.
See, I have 4 sisters, but I've never spent 30 years with them.
Yeah.
And this is one lady with whom I spent 30 years. So she's very precious to me.
Right. Very true. I see you get emotional about it now as well.
Yes, I still get emotional about it. I sleep. Masani, tell me what happened. So it became a very emotional issue with me, and the day that this happened was really.
Right. I can only imagine. So Kusumji, my last question. What do you find the most special thing about being a storyteller?
Vishwesh, I feel a storyteller is a person who takes the reader by the hand into a new world on a magic carpet of words.
Right.
Words that create scenarios, words that create personalities, words that create a total new environment which impinges onto the consciousness of the reader,
Right.
opening up a new world to the reader. So I think readers do play a very big role in our society. Writers, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
writers play a very big role in our society and open up minds. So actually the ambition which brought me into creative writing, I was a journalist for decades.
Right.
What brought me into creative writing was that I wanted to have a book published by Kusum Chopra on it, which maybe decades after I die, somebody would find somewhere and would read and know that there was a woman called Kusum Chopra living on the earth and she wrote this book.
Right.
Today, with 5 books in my kitty, that notion gives me a big high as a writer.
Right.
That I have 5 books on my shelf. So that is what being a writer means.
Yeah. Of leaving a legacy of your thoughts and your imagination.
Right. And opening people's minds to different ideas.
Yeah. So now we'll just have a quick rapid fire round. Let's just get started. Your favorite author?
Well, there have been so many, but currently Amrita Pritam.
Right. Favorite book?
The Navigator by Morris West.
Favorite movie?
My favorite movie, I've got 2.
Okay.
Both are Marathi.
Right.
One is Amol Palekar's Anahat, and the second is Sachin Khandekar's Muramba.
Right. Favorite song?
मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाती चली गई, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाती चली गई.
Right. I'm sure this must be a very straight, off-the-fly answer for you, but ebooks or physical books?
Physical.
A book that you'd like to adapt into a movie that hasn't been adapted yet?
Can I say 2?
Sure.
Okay. One is my book Silver Dreams,
Right.
and the other one is a book called Frangipani, It's written by a lady called Celeste Valte. She's a Tahitian writer,
Right.
but it's an amazing story.
And along the same vein, a movie that you'd like to adapt into a book but isn't a book yet.
I don't see very many movies, so I really can't say.
Right. And lastly, a hidden gem, a book that you think should be in the mainstream but isn't.
I got 3 answers for that.
Okay.
The first one is a book called Liberation of Sita.
Right.
The second one is Jesus Lived in India.
Oh.
And the third one is How to Marry a Psychopath.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, it's a laugh-a-minute book.
I see.
There you are.
Right. Alright, Kusumji, it's been great to get to know you and to hear about your story and your experiences. Thank you so much for coming here and for doing this.
Thank you, Vishwesh. It was a pleasure for me too. Since we are talking about the need for authors to do their own promotions, please let me do one of my own. My new book, which is recently out now, Altitudinalists, Seekers, Sinners and Secrets, is a suspense thriller with unbelievable human angles. What makes it different is the fact that it has been written by 10 people from different professions, 8 women and 2 men, writing this book, actually getting it published and out there in the market. I sincerely hope that all of you are going to pick it up and read it, because it's a very unusual story, told in a very unusual manner, and possibly the first collaborative effort which has actually made it to the market. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Author Speak with Vishwesh Desai. Stay tuned for more such conversations and for meeting more authors. Thank you.